welcome to Scene Stealers. We're here with Freddy Carter from Shadow and Bone.
No loud noises at the table, Jasper.
First, I want to congratulate you because the show is still huge on Netflix. Like, it's now 2 weeks, and I think it's still the #1 show.
Yeah, it's I mean, the response has been really overwhelming, but overwhelmingly positive, which is it's been incredible.
Yeah.
So when we were out there, obviously you don't think about that kind of stuff. You don't think about how many people will end up watching it, but yeah, it's been really lovely.
Yeah. I feel like, especially with this kind of show, like, you're really just in a whole new world, and so it's hard to think about, like, if I
Definitely.
guess you're actually even doing a show, because I imagine it just sucks you into this whole new thing.
Definitely. We were in a bubble before bubbles were a thing. Do you know what I mean? We were kind of
Exactly. So, I mean, it being a fantasy show, have you watched the show yourself? Because I imagine it must be weird seeing so many different things realized.
It is because, you know, there are some sets we're on which are mostly green screen, you know, and so you're what all this stuff looks like, and the VFX guys and Eric Heiser, our showrunner, are sort of trying to explain what the fold looks like, but that's quite hard to do, you know, because they're like, it's darkness. I go, okay, I don't really know what that looks like, so I'll just pretend. So then, you know, finally getting to see all that realized is like you say, it's kind of amazing, because then you're sort of experiencing that with the audience. You're sort of seeing that stuff.
Yeah,
which is very
What did the fold look like when you guys were filming? Was it just sort of like in a studio and the ship was kind of just rolling along?
Yeah, so we were in this huge soundstage, and they built. So we had two skiffs, sort of sand skiffs. We had one which was sort of low to the ground, where they would do sort of action sequences and things like that, where it's just sort of easier to get the cameras in. And then we had one, I say life size, but it was kind of to scale model of what the skiff would have been like, and it was massive. It was kind of 40 feet up from the ground and just surrounded by this big green curtain, which was the fold.
Nice. So how'd you kind of get involved in the show? Was it like a long audition process or anything?
It was relatively quick. I was away on holiday, and the audition tape came in, and I'd sort of heard of the Grishaverse and was aware of the books, but wasn't, you know, I didn't know a huge amount, and did a quick Google and sort of saw that there was already this huge fan base for these books, and there's a kind of, I think it's called the Grisha Wiki, which I basically just spent hours doing a deep dive into these rabbit holes about each character and their backstories, and I just thought that, you know, it lent itself so well to screen stuff. I was really excited to audition. So did that tape, and then pretty much the next day got a call saying Eric Heiser and Lee Tolan Krieger want to meet you. So I sort of flew home, met with them, and then had another couple of meetings really quickly, and it sort of was all go, and it was all really happening really quickly, and then just nothing for 2 weeks, where I was just sat there. I think I probably wasn't much fun to be around for those 2 weeks while I was waiting to hear, but yeah, and then a very exciting phone call came.
Nice. Did you, like, how many of the books did you read beforehand, if at all? Because I always kind of wonder, especially with this, it's so tricky because your character is a part of the universe, but not necessarily a part of the main, like, the first 3 Shadow and Bone books.
Yeah, exactly. So everything that you're seeing in the TV series is prequel to the Six of Crows duology.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, during the audition process, I bought Six of Crows, and I read the first chapter, and the second chapter has the character introduction for Kaz, and the first sentence is Kaz Brecker didn't need a reason.
Oh.
And I was, that is the coolest character introduction I've ever read. And I thought, anymore, I'm going to get too attached, and I'm going to be too sort of involved. So I better take a step back. So I actually put the books on hold and stopped reading them until I found out I got the part, and then just read all of them.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it wasn't like a read as you go kind of thing. Like, you're fine with, well, I guess because TV shows can change the book. So even if you spoil yourself with the books, like, you can be prepared.
I mean, I'd love to have stopped, but I was enjoying them too much. I sort of thought, okay, if I can just get the first Shadow and Bone book read, then I'd been told that that's where the first series was going to be sort of exploring, and that would be the storyline of the first season. Um, and I just it's left on such a cliffhanger that I had to read the second, and then I read the third, and then read Lives of Saints when that one came out. So sort of, I'm a big Lee Bardugo fan. I sort of
Yeah.
eagerly await each book as it comes out.
It's so interesting how we meet him. How would you describe Kaz Brecker and the Crows? Because there is already so much under the surface when it comes to him and Pekka Rollins and Nej and Helene. Like, I'm wondering, yeah, how you would sort of sum up all that deep backstory.
There is a lot to get your head around, and I think what I
Yeah.
about this season is that we tease loads of stuff. We don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily out and say, here's why he is as sort of dark and angry as he is. Some stuff is left kind of unexplained. So he's this sort of Kaz is this rising star of the criminal underworld, and he's sort of worked his way up through the ranks in Ketterdam.
Never make decisions out of fear, Jasper. Only out of spite.
And he's sort of driven by this kind of non-stop need for revenge. He's kind of thirsting for revenge. And we're never kind of told why that is. But like you say, it's got a lot to do with Pekka Rollins and his sort of first visit to Ketterdam. So it's sort of, it's all, and I think fans of the books will notice a lot of Easter eggs in the series, but I hope there's enough to keep people who haven't read the books kind of asking questions.
Yeah. I gotta say, I saw Archie in the comments, so shout out to Archie. That's awesome.
He got to say for himself.
So one thing I love about Kaz in the Crows is that we just get to see sort of like scheme and heist after scheme and heist come through. What was the most fun scheme to execute? Was it getting across the fold, or I guess you come to and from, or getting out of the little palace? Like,
Oh, that's a hard question. They're all really fun. They were all really fun to film. I suppose the heist of the archives was a really good one, because that is actually smack bang in the center of Budapest, and they filmed loads of stuff there. I think they filmed a bit of a Bond film there, and definitely some of Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner film was filmed there. So I was sort of geeking out as we were there. So that was a fun one, and it was just sort of Kit, Amita, and I running around this dark building, kind of looking mysterious, which was really fun.
Bit slow on the draw there.
Or just in time.
So that was a good one. And then getting through the fold is, I think, the way that that's structured in the episode, in that Arkin sort of takes control in that episode, right, which is a sort of strange position for Kaz to be.
That went well.
For once, so he's sort of giving it, and then there's this goat, which nobody quite understands why it's there, and then it's sort of support animal.
He's adorable.
Don't get attached.
Yeah,
nice.
I think that's fun in their own way.
Did that feel like a roller coaster? And I guess, did the goat add to it? Was it just like a weird experience? Like we're just crashing through with this random animal?
Yeah, we were filming in this sort of tiny little set. It's not much bigger than it looks on screen. And we were in there for 3 days straight. And the sort of turbines that you see actually move. And there's a wind machine blowing through, and there's an actual fire. And then just on top of all of that madness, there's a goat sort of running around as we're trying to... and I mean, Dan Liu, our director, he kind of picked just the right moments to sort of release the goat into the scene. And so we'd all be trying to do it, and kind of in this life and death situation, and there's this little sort of very cute goat moving around.
That's awesome. Yeah. Are those the days where you're like, wow, what is my job?
Yeah. Talk to your parents about what you've done that day, and you're like, yeah, so we're sort of going through this impassable mass of darkness, and there's fire, and there's monsters after us. There's a goat, it's pretty, it's kind of impossible to get your head around if you're not there.
Yeah. I think another interesting scene that we get to see that's really fun is when they're trying to join the troop to get into the little palace. And we, of course, get to see Inej's talents and all the Crow's talents, but we don't get to see what Kaz does. Would you say that he's a magician? Because he talks about illusions a bit, and he has that big scene with the Darkling where it's like, oh, maybe that's his talent, like escape artist.
sleight of hand and sort of trickery, and kind of, he maybe doesn't necessarily employ those things to entertain like a magician. I suppose it's more his intents are maybe a bit more nefarious. He kind of there's all this mention in the books of him being kind of obsessed with, if there's a trick, he has to know how it works. He won't stop. He knows. So I think that's what the sleight of hand is. He kind of like, if he sees something that doesn't quite make sense, he sort of has this dogmatic approach to finding out how, and then he kind of uses it for his own means.
Yeah, and I feel like it speaks to the character too, because we're just talking about like the schemes and everything, like him sort of being able to figure out how everything works. It makes sense that he's able to sort of slip away through all the problems that come his way.
Yeah, he's a guy who has to be 2 steps ahead of everyone. He sort of can't bear getting new information at the same time as everyone else, which is really fun to play because I'm always 2 steps behind everyone. You know, I'm always the last to figure it out. So playing Kaz was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I like that, like, we can never really tell if he actually has a plan, but he definitely sells having a plan.
Yeah, he's a bluffer as well, which is great. I think that's admirable. You know, a plan will come to a moment, which I think is quite fun to play with.
Yeah. Another thing I really love about the show is, like, we think of fantasy shows, and I feel like so much of the driving force behind some of them are like, are these people ever going to meet or reunite? And the great thing about this show is, like, everyone kind of came together and had a scene together, at least, like, the main players. Was that something you really appreciated about the show, that you got to have scenes with Alina, the Darkling, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, because I'm a fan of the books, I was always interested to know how it was going to work, how they were going to sort of mesh these 2 stories together. And Eric, the writer and showrunner, was kind of kept teasing it and sort of saying, yeah, well, you know, maybe you and Ben will get to work together later in the season. And I was like, how does that come together? So Ben and I would sort of get together and dream up all these sort of weird and wonderful scenes that might happen between Kaz and the Darkling. But yeah, I think it was interesting as a cast. We were all such big fans of the books and always so sort of keen to see how they were going to mesh together. We had all these ideas, but what eventually came to pass was kind of so far above and beyond our sort of fan fiction, as it were.
Where do you think the Crows kind of rank within, like, the people Darkling is going after? Because I feel like they both have more to worry about, but they both definitely don't like each other.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, and I sort of think that actually for the Darkling, I can't speak for Ben, but being embarrassed and being sort of got one better of is something that doesn't happen very often, and it sort of doesn't happen very often in the series. And when Kaz gets the better of him through sort of sleight of hand and trickery, it's probably quite embarrassing for the Darkling. So whether he knows it or not, I think that's probably something that's nagging away at him, and he probably wants to come and get one back over Kaz Brecker. So I'd say he's pretty high up the list. He's coming for us.
Nice. And then we kind of mentioned this before, but there's a lot to mine from Kaz's past. But then, of course, it's exciting to see what the future holds. So I'm wondering, what are you more excited about, digging into his past, or what his future, or playing out what his future is going to be?
Good question. I think that, like I said, because everything is prequel in the books, everything you're seeing in the series is prequel to the books. It's been really interesting to sort of trace backwards with the help of Eric, to go kind of see, because we want to, when we hopefully get to sort of start showing the Six of Crows storyline, we want it all to sort of have made sense. So the Kaz Brecker you meet at the start of season 1 isn't necessarily the Kaz Brecker you meet at the start of Six of Crows. So it's kind of an interesting way of working and tracing back. But having said that, his past is so crucial to who he is and how he is and why he does the things he does. I'm sort of very interested to see all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think another thing that comes up with these shows, and having watched the show, I was like, oh, there's a lot of longing here that I wasn't expecting. Have you seen a lot of, like, people shipping Kaz with different characters? Has it been mainly like people want to see Kaz and Inej like start something, or have you other Crows, other characters? Like, what have you seen in that?
it's funny because they're, I don't want to call it a love interest because it's more of like a magnetic pull that they have towards each
Yeah.
other. It's so burn in the books. It's so sort of difficult for them both because they have all this trauma and they're kind of so bad at talking about their feelings to each other. Such a slow burn, and Amita and I really wanted to sort of honor that and sort of
Yeah.
keep sort of slow thing that they kind of, but for him to admit by the end of the season that he needs her around, you know, he sort of is huge, and it takes a full 8 episodes for him to get to that point. So yeah, I have seen people shipping cat, which is very nice and exciting because, you know, Amita and I worked quite hard on getting that chemistry right because it shouldn't be sort of so blatantly obvious.
Hello, Inej. What information do you have for me tonight?
It should be something maybe on a second watch you go, oh yeah, maybe he did need her from the start. He just didn't want to admit it.
But yeah, I think I'm going to go to fan questions because we're getting a lot of them. People are really excited to dig into Kaz, and then I might ask some questions as well later. We'll see. All right, so oh, thank God. Okay, it's working for me. Let's see. Yeah, sure, we'll go with this one. Okay, so from Sophia Aguilar, Freddy, what was it like to make a character like Kaz? Did you have fun bringing Kaz to life?
I did. I had loads of fun because I'd sort of enjoyed the books so much and sort of thought that actually Six of Crows especially is so cinematic and it's got so many, it sort of lends itself to screen so well that and Eric's scripts were just so good and sort of, I thought, captured Kaz so brilliantly that actually it was a lot of fun, and like it made it quite easy because the scripts were so good. You know, I had a really good time, and also playing around with the dynamics with Kit and Amita, and sort of, you know, we spent a lot of time working on that and trying to figure out at which points I have to be sort of more hard nosed so that Kit can sort of be lighter and funnier, and which times that sort of how those dynamics work and sit. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I saw a question that I liked that I'm going to spin a little bit. It was from Branched Magic, and it was asking about sort of like, did you have a chance to develop the character a little bit with the writers? Because like you said, I think these are the prequels to Kaz's books.
Yeah. So Lee Bardugo was really sort of involved from the outset with this project, and then when we got onto set and sort of became involved in the project, she was really eager to help. So I think as soon as I found out I got the part, I got an email from Lee sort of basically offering up her sort of knowledge, because she created these people. She knows these parts better than anyone. And so when we got to Budapest, we'd have a lot of conversations about how we think he may have got to that stage at the start of Six of Crows, and sort of what, other than the obvious things, sort of made him who he is. So it felt very collaborative. And then as we went along, the scripts were sort of being written and changed depending on, you know, those dynamics I mentioned before. The writers had a very keen eye on us and how we were playing the parts.
Yeah. This was another one that flashed past me, and I think it's from Maya Sinclair, but she was asking, what was it like, sort of the photography that you got to take on set? Like, was that fun? And sort of when did you take those opportunities?
Any opportunity, I take it. Kit called them stitch-ups rather than pictures.
Nice.
Because I have a sort of little point and shoot thing that I shoot black and white film on, and it's very much kind of when people least expect it, I'll just shove a camera in their face and get it. So yeah, they were more stitch-ups than sort of portraits. But I started taking pictures on sets just because you're normally in kind of beautiful places surrounded by people who don't mind being in front of camera, and they're sort of wearing quite interesting things. So it sort of lends itself to portraiture and candid photos. Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to go to the question feature for this one because I want to show them some love too. Okay. By the way, guys, like some stuff, you know, I can't ask like some future stuff. What are favorite scenes? Well, here, yeah, this is a little more open. So for the book people, let's say this is XSRXL_Carter. What's one of your favorite scenes from the books?
Ooh, good question. In Crooked Kingdom, I'm pretty sure it's Crooked Kingdom, Kaz has to go back to the Slat, which is the home of the Dregs, and basically has to fight his way through the whole gang to stop a coup, or to sort
Oh,
of
dang.
stay kind of amazing. And he sort of fights off all these guys, and he's sort of basically hanging by a thread by the end of this fight, but still seems to get away with it. That's yeah, that's pretty cool.
Nice. And I liked this. So I missed the rest of the screen name, and now I'm kind of, oh yeah, okay, wait. I have it for a second. So Al Brown 9924. Do you relate to any of Kaz's characteristics?
Do I relate? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a gang leader. I don't I don't run an underground casino, and I you know, violence isn't always my first option, like Kaz says sometimes. But I think that loyalty is incredibly important to him,
Mm-hmm.
and he finds his crows, and they're his found family, and he sort of sticks by them and would do anything for them. And I think I can relate to that. Loyalty is incredibly important to both of us.
Yeah. By the way, people are loving the scene that you chose, so I think that they're gonna love seeing it on TV, hopefully. All right. Let's see what else is here. Oh, this is okay. This is wild. I kind of like this one. So Samia Pawa says, if you were the one casting, who would you cast for Cass?
Interesting. I cast myself, probably.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of comparisons to Tommy Shelby, and I do think that Cillian Murphy kind of nails that.
Yeah.
Something kind of always going on behind the eyes, and he's always plotting and always scheming. I suppose a young Cillian Murphy, if as a casting director I could time travel, who else? There's loads of
That's a dope answer to be like, you know what? If we adapted this like 15 years ago, like
Let him out.
that's a smart way to answer. Let me see what else is in here. Part of me is like, maybe I should steal that. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Here, from Sarah. Who is your personal favorite character on the show other than Kaz?
Ooh. Bagra, I think. She is like a well-worn path in fantasy stuff, that there's sort of kind of a tutor figure, someone who's very knowledgeable and sort of passes on the knowledge, but is quite sort of angry with it and quite sort of does it quite begrudgingly. But I think that Zoe Wanamaker in it is so brilliant and makes her so sort of likable whilst she's hitting the main character. You sort of, I think that's such a skill that she's got, and I think she's got some of the best one-liners as well. So yeah, Bagra.
Nice. I liked, let's see. So this is Nasiba T. Khan. What helped you guys portray the Crows' friendship and chemistry so well? So how did you guys build that chemistry? Because it does seem like lifelong friends while watching.
Yeah, we were very lucky because we were out in Budapest where we were filming for about a month before we actually got in front of camera, Kit and Misa and myself. And we did a lot of stunt training together, did a lot of rehearsals and costume fitting. So we had actually spent quite an intensive period of time together, both in a work sense, and then we'd also socialized together. So we formed fast friends, or we became firm friends really quickly. And they're just a lovely, well, they're a lovely pair of actors to work with because they're very generous and giving, but as people as well, they're just lovely. So it sort of makes my job easier. You know, you want to spend time with them.
That's funny. And some people are asking, who's your favorite Crow? Come on now.
Favorite Crow?
All of them are great. But
all of them are, all of them. Kaz is my favorite Crow, but
yeah,
I think Nina probably a pretty close second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nina.
Speaking to the future a little bit, AG in your face says, are you excited for Waylon and Nikolai to come on the show? Wyland.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get to introduce these kind of fan favorites from the Grishaverse. That would be very exciting. And yeah, it just sort of adds to that dynamic. There's sort of more, we sort of, Kit and Mita and myself have this sort of thing going on, and then it'd be really exciting to add more people into that and sort of see how they how those dynamics play off each other.
Definitely. And then I like this, Steph14X says, what's your favorite line that Kaz says on the show? Because honestly, some of the lines I was like, I gotta write this down. This is like so nice and prophetic and stuff.
Oh, sure. One of the most fun lines to say was essentially a really small, but on the day I had so much fun saying Pekka Rollins.
Yeah.
Where we're trying to plot how to get through the fold, and somebody mentions that this piece of information is already in the hands of Pekka Rollins. And because knowing all of the backstory and everything, trying to squeeze all of that hatred into one into one name.
Yeah.
There's also a great line about being unlike a spider and only needing one good leg. You know, that's a pretty, whilst I'm sort of smashing someone's hand apart, that was the first moment that we got to see the kind of red mist descend, which is always sort of a fun thing to explore.
Yeah. And I loved that whole small palace sequence too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, this is fun. Who's the funniest cast member?
Funniest. Everyone's really funny. Everyone's really funny in their own way. That's hard. I have sort of, yeah, everyone's got a very individual sense of humor that I love. Oh, that's hard. I can't possibly choose a person. I suppose Kit makes me laugh the most at work, because when he's playing Jesper, I have such a great time watching him, and it's quite hard to kind of be serious and annoyed at him as Kaz when he's making me laugh. Yeah.
And then on that same sort of, or a little bit of a different front, Lakota Restores, I think I got that name right. What was one of the hardest scenes to film?
Ooh. A lot of episode 8 is in the Shadowfold, and that's quite hard. You know, that's a big imaginative leap when, like I said earlier, it's just a green curtain, or you're fighting a Volcra, but it's actually a green football on the end of a stick, you know, and some guy's just sort of waving it at you. That stuff is hard because it's an imaginative leap. But there was a day, I think it's episode 3, before we crossed the fold, when I'm holding a goat. And I was holding this goat for about 6 hours, and it wasn't light, and he was screaming sort of right here, right next to my ear. So while I'm trying to have this kind of emotional moment with Inej where she's talking about losing her family, and there's this tiny goat just sort of screaming in my ear. So that was quite hard.
Yeah. And sort of we're towards the end, and so I like this question from Shannon Dawa. What side of Kaz do you want to explore more in a season 2, a second season?
Oh, well, hopefully we get to do a second season and we get to explore the backstory. You know, we get a sense of, you know, just to sort of explain a little bit more as to why he is who he is and why he wears the gloves, and the sort of the backstory of the cane and his sort of hatred for Pekka Rollins, all of that stuff. I'd love to explore all of that stuff. That would be great.
Nice. And do you have the cane? People are asking if you have the cane. Yes! Okay, we got the cane.
Okay.
How many people got to sign?
I don't order the hand, by the way. I did bring it here because I thought people might ask.
Nice.
Just have this.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for talking to me. In addition to Shadow and Bone, I did want to also shout out, I believe you're going to be Masters of the Air too. Were you a big fan of like I believe this is third, it was Band of Brothers, The Pacific, and now this?
Yeah, it's the same team. I grew up watching Band of Brothers and then The Pacific. You know, they're part of the reasons that I wanted to be an actor with those TV shows. I loved them so much. So it does feel like a very special honor to be a part of this team and kind of working on it. And we only just recently started, so it's very, very exciting.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a little bit of an honor too, because when people watch Band of Brothers and stuff, it's always like, I didn't know this person was that in this, and I didn't know this, and like you see Damian Lewis, and it was like, wait, this is like how many years before Homeland? And so it's, yeah.
Band of Brothers has like Jimmy Fallon drives a Jeep in one episode. He just like pops up, and James McAvoy, Andrew Scott, all of these people who are now kind of marquee names were
Yeah.
involved in that story. And the Pacific, same go Rami Malek's first big thing, I think. So it's yeah, it's sort of definitely got a pedigree of incredible cast. So it is, yeah, it's a huge honor.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Freddie. Thanks so much to the commenters. We were also getting a lot of love for Free Reign in there, so that was really fun. But yeah, this has been Scene Stealers. You guys can all watch Freddie play Kaz Bretker on Shadow and Bone Season 1, streaming on Netflix now. And also look towards Masters of the Air, and anything else you want to plug as well, Freddie?
No, Shadow and Bone. Go watch Shadow and Bone.
All right, well, see you guys later.